late model over was in Arizona in January, and it was one of those deals where I knew once it wasn't really a hard wreck, and we rolled over, and it was one of those deals, and it was something I couldn't avoid. But being upside down in the car, I wasn't going to climb out. I mean, I could have probably if it would have been on fire, or if there was a situation where I needed to get out in a hurry, it would have been a challenge. But it's one of those deals where that's the only issue with this sport, and it's like that gentleman that passed away in the asphalt sprint car accident with not having a full containment seat, and I'm trying to change the left side headrest, and that's the toughest part. Is like for dirt late model cars, it's already pretty tight to get in there regardless of who you are, and then for a guy like myself who's 6'5", pretty big dude, it's tough to get in and out of those race cars in situations like that. So I ended up laying upside down for quite an amount of time, and it makes you realize that some of these things are more important than I might need a new tire, but maybe saving some money to buy some safety equipment's not a bad thing. And I've always had really good safety equipment. My parents have always been on top of that, and I think that's awesome. Make sure safe all the time. I remember there was a time when I was probably like 12 or 13 years old, and I was asked to drive somebody's go-kart for him, and I got in there and put the helmet on, and I realized I didn't have my Hans device on, and I told him, I was like, if I don't have it, I'm not racing. It's one of those deals where it's a comfort thing when you have it, and you have some sort of safety device to help you in case of an accident. So
exactly, and it's when you start talking, was it 39.2 SFI rating on a seat? Does that really make a difference? Well, let's be honest here. We're racing $40,000 race cars. Why would you put on a single air suit or a triple air suit? There's. Oh,
exactly.
Go ahead.
I agree with that statement 100%. I think when you really look at it, if you go back and you look at the broad scheme of things, and you look at the amount of money that a lot of us put into these race cars, that seat might be expensive, but ultimately it's your life at the end of the day, or somebody else's life. So it's one of those deals where you really have to look at it. But I think late model racing. Go ahead.
Well, in all reality, the seat's not a wear item like a seatbelt would be, where a seat could last you 5-10 race seasons if you take care of it properly, versus seatbelts where you need to replace them every year.
When you're talking about running dirt late models at a track like Eldora, where you're running 3 wide at 140, there's no price on safety. The problem with that is, and we're starting to see a little bit of that, the cost of everything in racing being so high, it concerns me that it could go the route of Indy cars 15, 20 years ago, when they priced themselves out where they nearly didn't have a series at all.
There's a lot of truth to that, but at the same time, you're talking about the Dream and the World 100 at Eldora, which are probably some of the biggest dirt races
Absolutely.
In the country and even in the world. If you're on that level to be at that race,
you better have that type of equipment.
You better have that equipment, and if you can't afford that equipment, maybe you shouldn't be at that race.
No, there's no maybe. You shouldn't be at that race, and I'll tell you why, because we had that experience, and when you see how fast those cars are going at Eldora, I'm telling you right now, if you haven't been to Eldora or a half-mile dirt track, period, and seen that kind of stuff, you'll get concerned real quick for your driver in the car. We were there in 96 with David Hawks, and he pulled out and he took off, and you see a 16-second lap, 16.5-second lap on a half-mile track, and you see that kind of speed. I'm not telling you. I'm no joke, guys. It's serious business, and a little wreck there is a big wreck.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like, was it not this last year at the Wild West Shootout, but the year before, guys were touching the wall in the backstretch and totaling their cars. That's how much speed they were carrying down there. It all goes back to a quote or something that one of our drivers said to me one time of, people were complaining about the cost of a race receiver being $100, and it's like, we're driving $40,000 race cars. What's $100?
In the big scheme, right. I mean, there's no price on safety, but at the same time, where do you cap it to keep the sport from going extinct?
Yeah, there's always going to be pros and cons on everything.
Right, there is.
It is.
Think back to when in your passenger car, all of a sudden, I'm old enough to remember this, that you had to wear seatbelts.
Yeah.
And previous to that, you didn't have to. And everybody's like, well, I have a friend that had a seatbelt on and they died because they had a seatbelt on. Well, that's...
But I've got 10 friends that have been in wrecks and the seatbelt saved their life.
Exactly, exactly.
Exactly. Nobody... Nobody
the way
talks
I
about that, but they'll
that's-
talk about the one negative.
Right. And that's
the way I
typically
see
how
this
it goes.
seat thing going.
I mean, I'm all for safety. There's no such thing as too much safety in a race program. And Justin, I know that you'll agree with that, like you've mentioned. But at some point, things get so ridiculous, where you're spending $2,500, $3,000 just on a seat. I know when I was back in North Carolina, we were talking to some of the guys at Hendricks, and they actually make, the custom-fitted seats from the carbon fiber for their drivers. They do sell them to other race teams, and those seats start at $15,000.
Oh, yeah.
Who's got the money to put $15,000 into a seat for their race car?
Rick Hendrick.
Well, right. That's what I'm talking about. I mean,
His sponsors.
but that's the thing, is when is it too much?
Well, what do you think, Buzz? I mean, you're hearing what Justin's saying. What's a fan's perspective?
I mean, it's obviously an expensive sport. I mean, and I've been on other lines of stuff before, where you're right. Is it financially worth putting that much money into something, or do you just sit there and run what you brung and kind of avoid the expensive places to go to?
And that's what it does to you. It prevents you from going certain places, like this one race at Eldora Justin's talking about. They have to have a $2,500 seat.
Right.
If you're going to race on that level, like Justin said, like you said, you have to do it. Right, Justin?
No, I agree. I think, I think you'd be putting yourself in a bad position if you don't, especially with what, unfortunately, all the instances that have happened in the modified sprint car late model world in the last, and it's unfortunate to see all that happen. And but it's one of those deals where ultimately we're all here for the same purpose. We all want to win. We all want to do that. And so I think a lot of the times our competitive edge gets in the way and allows us to spend money on, I think this will make me 0.2 seconds faster, when really 0.2 seconds doesn't matter when you're not around.
Exactly.
So it's key to spend the money in the right place, and I think that's a big part of our sport right now.
It absolutely is. I mean, we've seen the cars get so fast at everywhere. I mean, short tracks, big tracks, doesn't matter. They're getting so fast anymore with the shocks and the suspension and the horsepower that you have to have it. I understand why they're doing what they're doing, but at the same time, it's just kind of frustrating, because all it does is drive the cost up for guys like you that are young, trying to come up and establish themselves. It makes it harder, when you don't have $1 million sponsor behind you.
But he's got Don Frank Floors.
It's tough, and I think that's why. Exactly, we have Don Frank Floors, which is awesome, and they do everything that they possibly can for us. And if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be anywhere close to where we're at right now. So it's awesome to have them on board, and I think the money side of things is why you see a lot of racetracks across the country doing some sort of a crate class or something along those lines. And not that that's a bad thing at all. I think it's a good place for people to get their feet wet in that situation. I think it's a good place to start for sure.
No kidding. So I wish we would see you more here on the West Coast, but
No
I think
kidding.
I think it's just an awesome deal that you're going to go back there and give it everything you've got. And who knows, maybe you get out there and you pull off a win somewhere, and the right person sees you, and we might be watching you as a full-time regular or a champion on the big series.
We're definitely gonna...
we hope that we can make that happen for sure. I mean, I'm definitely not looking to go back there and light the world on fire. I've gotten some grief in the years past from going back to these bigger races and not making the shows, and I'm telling you what, it is a different deal when you travel. And it's not that we race around here, the people that race here are slouches by any means, but the aggression level and the effort that's put into those deals is a whole nother level. And so we're just going to go back there with an open mind about it, and as hard as I possibly can to make something happen, and in a position that we can get recognized and get some financial help and be able to do this on a more regular basis. And hopefully we can make it all work, where we can travel that World Outlaw deal next year. I think that's a good opportunity for me, and I really think it'll be good. I've met a lot of the people that run that series last couple weeks, and really nice group of people. Obviously there to help the driver and the teams get up and down the road. So I'm excited to work with them in the future, and hopefully we can make it all work.
Man, it's a great opportunity. Again, we want to wish you the best. You guys have anything you want to say to Justin before we step on out?
I just want to wish him best of luck doing in his upcoming adventures, and we're going to miss you here at Willamette, that's for sure.
No kidding.
Well,
We'll see his dad. His dad will be here, and most of the season, right?
He'll be here probably until middle of May, and then he'll also be. His car is going to come with me, and then he'll fly in and race. We'll see as far as how the season goes, whether or not I come back to Oregon at all during the summer. If I come back, we'll obviously race when I'm back, and then I'm not racing, and I'm back in town. It's not like I won't be there. It's only the place I've been every Saturday night from April to September since I was about 6 months old. So
Awesome.
you guys will see me there regardless. So we'll be there even if I'm not racing, walking around and having a good time and trying to help out our local racers and support what we got going around here and see what kind of business we can drum up for our shock business and see if we can help our customers get in victory lane.
Awesome.
Right.
Well,
game on.
keep us updated so we can keep all your fans updated here, on the West Coast, and we'll do what we can to help promote you and your career. And we want to, again, we can't wish you enough luck, and hopefully we'll see you parked in victory lane at one of the big shows, buddy.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. If any fans have any questions about what we got going on, I don't have anything posted yet, but we have a new website made. It's open now, up and running. www.doubledutyracing.com, and it'll be updated weekly with how we finish, and then it should have a tentative schedule on there on where we're planning to be in the country. So if somebody wants to follow me, they can go on there and check it out, and pretty easy to get around on that website. And Ben Shelton and the guys at MSR Mafia do a great job, and they hook us up and make sure our fans know what we're doing and when we're doing it. So if anybody wants to take a look, give that a shot, and we'll see you guys around. I appreciate you letting me call in tonight.
Absolutely.
I love the catchphase, double duty.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
and we're going to
yeah.
get that link posted up on Moxie Media so the fans here can have a link to it to follow you. And, again, good luck. Thanks for calling in, and we will catch up with you at some point during the summer, bud.
Nice talking
All right,
with you,
sounds
Justin.
good, guys. Hopefully we'll see you at Willamette Saturday. Appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
We're
All right.
praying.
See you, Justin.
Take care, buddy. You
All right,
talk
see ya.
talk about that kid. Very humble. Very
Very
humble.
humble and very intelligent.
He is. That's the thing. He
I've
understands.
never talked with him much. He's got a very intellectual
He
perspective.
does.
on
He's got a
things.
great approach. He's got a level head, and he's got a perspective where I think most kids, and I say kid, he's only 20.
You thought he was only 18. but-
Well, I knew he was young. I didn't think these kids grow up so fast anymore. You watch them grow up
I
on the
know.
racetrack, and you forget how
Well, yeah, it's like we were talking to Doug Davenport. Was it last year?
Oh, look at his webpage here.
And he was talking about, I'm racing against this kid who I was pulling around in a wagon a couple years ago. At
That's
the
what I'm
racetrack in
saying.
the
Yeah, I
pits.
mean, but for a young man of 20 years old to have the level head and the perspective he's got going into this deal. I mean, like he said, he's not going into it expecting to light the world on fire.
Oh, he's just real about everything.
That's
He's just straight
I
up,
think
straight shooter, humble.
The best approach you can
Intelligent.
have is exactly that right there, because
Yeah.
when you're going to a World of Outlaws show or a big show, and you're going to run against guys like he mentioned, Bloomquist and Owens and Chris Madden, and you
Hopefully
talk
we
about,
get to watch him race on TV against them boys.
well, and we will be watching for him, and we'll keep everybody updated with the the Double Duty Motorsports website. We're going to post a copy onto Moxie Media, a link. People can go check that out.
Very
Great looking
impressive.
website.
Yeah, very impressive.
So that's man, I'm excited for this young man to represent the West Coast and Oregon and Double Duty, to get out there and do his thing. And who knows,
The worst thing about all this
anything can happen.
is he's not going to be at Willamette.
That
really
well,
breaks my heart.
He's got a great fan base.
Yeah.
He really does. And
Well, him and John both have an amazing fan base, and they've, like you said, he's only been theirs for the last 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah, he's gonna be he's got his work cut out for him. I think he understands that. It's not going to be easy to run with those guys, but I think if there's a young guy we know that has a shot at making it to the next level, I mean, you got to put his name in that mix. And we've got some guys out here on the West Coast that can do it. I mean, we truly do. When you start looking at Justin and Colin and Bryson James, and there's some guys behind them even coming up that are really have a good shot to grab someone's attention. And you guys are sitting here on the big screen reading the
Justin's only 20 years old, and he's got 14 years, including go-karts,
Right.
racing experience.
Yep.
Wow.
Look at this.
And 8 career wins.
You